What's up, everybody? My name is Shannon and I am still waiting for my Satyr, and this is part 2 of my review of A World Without Princes by Soman Chainani. This is the sequel to A School for Good and Evil, and a couple of caveats for this. If you are looking for my regular spoiler-free review, I do have that up for this book, and you can find it. I will link it right up here, because this video I'm doing specifically because I want to talk about some spoilery things. I want to get more into it. Now, I've also read all of these books, except for, the other three, several times. I've read the original trilogy a couple of times. So there might be some spoilers in this for the third book as well. So if you haven't read the series at all, just know that going into it. The main reason I wanted to make this video is because I have a lot to talk about with this particular reread for me. The last time I read these books was about 6 years ago. I was 20 years old. I was in college, and reading the second book this time really hit in such a different way, and I just really want to get into that. So, School for Good and Evil, we know this. It is about how it's not as black and white as fairy tales would like it to be. Yes, we have good. Yes, we have evil. Yes, there is a balance, but it is possible to have that balance within yourself. And we see that a lot with Sophie, because she is somebody who desperately wants to be good, but she is placed in the evil school. She is an evil witch, that kind of thing. But I don't think you can say that Sophie is never good, because she does ultimately in the first book end up with Agatha. They are best friends. It is their true love that, gives them their happily ever after. So you do see that there is both evil and good inside of all of our characters. You also see that in the second book with Tedros. Tedros is a good. He is an Everboy, and yet he flies off the handle. He steals the Storian. He takes over the school for evil and turns it into the school for boys. And not only that, but he is bent on killing Sophie because she is the witch in the story. And there is a big theme in this book about how, there's always three. There's a prince, a princess, and a witch. And the witch will never be happy until the prince and the princess, aren't together. Their happily ever after has been ruined. So the question is the original ending with Sophie and Agatha the witch winning? Is that her successfully keeping the true lovers apart and her being happy while the other two are suffering? And for me, this time around, now knowing that I am aromantic and asexual, because last time I read this book I didn't, I have always been, but I didn't have the dialogue last time I read that book. It kind of hit me because I was like, am I Sophie? I kind of had that feeling within me because, I have had friends. I have friends currently who have boyfriends. I've watched, boyfriends come and go and that kind of thing. And I love the original ending of, these two friends who are each other's true loves. It is a platonic love. It is very queer as well. So in this book, getting that, was it the right ending? Was it possibly the wrong ending? It really hit me. And I was actually describing it to my mom, and she was like, yeah, no, that sounds like you. And I was like, wow, great, thanks. Ultimately, since I have read this book, I know where it's going, especially know where it's going in the final book in the series. And where it is going is very queer. It is queer platonic. It is very much existing in a gray area because, yes, Agatha and Tedros do end up with each other, but Sophie and Agatha are still each other's true loves. Their friendship is truly the biggest factor within these stories. So I know this is the darker middle chapter, and they had to go through this in order to come out stronger on the other side. So within that, we see Sophie really struggling with, I want Agatha to be, my friend. I want her to have the happy ending with me. But am I being selfish by denying her her prince? And she really wars with herself with that, to the point where later on in the book, she disguises herself as a boy. She sneaks into the boys' school. She talks to Tedros, and she even ends up befriending Tedros because at the end of the day, I do think Sophie is a good friend. That's a big question within these books because she is so vapid, she is so selfish. But I do think at the end of the day, she does truly care. I think it's hard for her because she has a lot of other things going on, and like towards the third book we see stuff with her mom and all of that, but I do think she truly cares about people, and it's being around people that keeps her good. So like a witch's, nevermore would never be a happy ending for Sophie because she needs these people to keep her grounded. And then we see with Agatha a really interesting take, because I think until going to the school for good, she just always assumed that she was going to be alone. I think she always assumed that she was unwanted. She was definitely like a sexless character, which is weird to say because like these are 12-year-olds, but like, you know what I mean? Like she wasn't seeing herself as a desirable person. And I would almost say that in the first book, you could almost read Agatha as like some sort of asexual or aromantic type of character. But she meets Tedros, she doesn't like him, there's a lot going on. And ultimately, she does find herself wondering like, what if he was willing to like have that happy ending with me? He reached out his hand to me, and nobody's ever done that before. She's always had Sophie, but she's always been in Sophie's shadow. So this would be an ending that is all her own. And in this book, they're forcing her to choose, like, is it Sophie or is it Tedros? And reading that, like, as an asexual person, as somebody who wants that queer platonic, relationship, it was hard to hear. But I kept having to remind myself, like, the whole point of this series, like the whole point of every single one of those books is that it's not binary. It's not one or the other. It's not good or evil. It's not boys or girls. Like you can have both. Both exist within inside every single one of us. So ultimately, Agatha loves both of these individuals. She loves Tedros. She loves Sophie. Both of them equally are her true love. She has a romantic true love and she has a platonic true love. And that's really amazing to see within these books. And honestly, I think that's why this series resonated so much for me, because I went and I read that third book and they get their happily ever after and she gets to be with everybody and Sophie gets to have a happily ever after. And I think that just really resonated because that's an ending that I want for myself as well. Now I can also see that like not a lot of people would get a read like that from this story, because on the surface it does feel like it's a little bit like aphobic in a way. It also feels a little bit weird because in this book we have the line drawn between boys and girls, but then there's nothing like ambiguous. Like there are no trans characters, there's no gender fluid characters. There is an interesting section about how like gnomes don't have a gender until like they are like decided upon like later on in their life, and that's how they get this serum that can help change your gender. So like you can go in to the boys' school or go into the girls' school, and we find out with that. And there is one character in particular, and I know I've spoiled a lot of things, but I'm actually not going to spoil who this character is, but they have found themselves wishing to be part of the other side. And I kind of wish that was explored a little bit more, because as it was, it's so easy to sweep under the rug. Like it's almost like the like gay kisses that Disney puts in their film where it's like, here's a little bit, but I could just edit it out if I wanted to. Basically what I'm saying is like, these books are not without problems. Like there are some problematic elements to it. However, I do not think that takes away from this amazing queer story that is being woven through here. Now, I really hope that I'm able to hold on to this reading as I go through the new 3 books, because I've never read those. I've never read the Camelot Years, and the reason I haven't read them is because I love the ending of the 3rd book. I think it was beautiful. I think it was perfect. And I'm really worried about the story continuing. I'm even worried about like the Percy Jackson stories continuing, because I know like we're getting a couple of new things with that. But I am interested to see where it's going, because I love Sophie and Agatha. I think their relationship is one of the most complex relationships I've seen in a story, especially for middle grade. And I am excited to see where that's going to take them. So anyway, to make a long story short, basically A World Without Princes just really hit me different. Like this was a very different read for me. I did ultimately end up giving it an A-. I still gave it 5 stars because I just loved the series so much. but I do think that there are problematic elements that need to be discussed, and there's a lot of it that I can't speak on. I can only speak on what my experience is. So if you've read these books and you have anything that like you want to talk about, like please do so in the comments down below, because I want to hear about it. I feel like these stories open up such a broad range of conversations, and that's another reason why I love it so much. But I wanted to get these thoughts out there, so if you need to get your thoughts out there, please do so in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit that like button down below. Don't forget to subscribe to Talk Books with me every week. That's everything I got for today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.